What is up? Daniel here with the Virtual Robotics Studio. It's time to build our launching rail and get that assembled into our upper structure frame. But before we start building, as always, special thanks to First and Argosy Foundation for making this all possible. All right, let's talk about some of the materials we need. We have one more piece of this 1x1 box that we have to cut down for our launching rail. You should have enough left over. It needs to be at least 19.5 inches long. We had this nice bit that we cut off here from our Polycarb sheet. It was kind of narrow. This one, we need it to be at least 22 inches long, so we are over that, and 2 inches in the other direction, so this is way more than 2 inches. All right, we're going to use some rivets to connect these two pieces together, and then we're going to use some bolts to connect the whole launching rail into the rest of our assembly. So you need a couple of number 10 bolts, or your chosen size. 1.5 inches long should get the job done. The hardware that you need to, or the tools you need to tighten that. I've also got some of my normal measuring and marking tools. I got a tape measure. I've got the layout square. It's going to be easier for me to mark up the plastic and get it the right size. Drill bit for the rivets, and calipers just in case. We'll probably use those. I have one more trick too for this step. So if you dig into your AndyMark, the AM14U5 box, which was where the drive chain chassis was, there are these bumper mounts. So they were in a long cardboard box, and these are the interior bumper mounts. And these, if you measure them, are 5/8 of an inch tall. And we're going to be able to use these kind of just to align stuff later, because they are the right thickness. So we can kind of use these to make sure that we have a 0.625 or 5/8 spacing between two parts when we go to attach stuff. All right, our first step is actually to get cutting. Let's get both of our stock material down to the right size and shape. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. We're going to come back. We're going to make some cuts. All right, let's get our box piece cut down for our launching rail here. Again, since we're measuring off of this, I want to make sure that the end is nice and cleaned. I don't think I filed this after we made our last cut. So I will do that really quickly. So we're measuring off a clean edge. And this piece needs to be 19.5 inches long. And you got a whole lot of room for error on this one. If it's a little bit too long or a little bit too short, it's all going to work fine. So let's go to 19.5 here on the tape measure. Right there. All right, and looks like I want to get rid of most of that line. So get that clamped up again. Use whatever tool you have to cut. I guess we probably talked about that enough by now. I'll stick with this one because it works well for me. And my 19, wait, which side is good? This is the 19 side, right? 19.5, yeah. So this is my 19.5. That's the good side. And let's get this lined up. I think we're good there. Let's go for it. All right, make sure it's clamped in nice and tight. And let's do it. And let's file those ends. And let's see how we did. 19, that is really, really close to 19.5. I can live with that. All right. Again, if you're in the ballpark, you're good. All right, so this part is ready to go. I'm going to label it even though we've used all the other parts. So this is, the last one left. But this is going to be, let's do LR for launching rail. And I'll write that twice since LR is shorter than the other things we've labeled stuff. That way, if one wipes off, we'll still know. All right. Now we got to switch everything up. We're going to get rid of this, bring out the plastic, mark that up, and then get that cut to size. All right, we're back. We've got our plastic ready. I have the drawing for it. So this part is actually the launching rail plastic KB24010, 24010. And the only thing we care about right now, we're not going to drill any of the holes. We're going to drill the holes all together when all the pieces are there. It does show curved edges, and again, corner radii are optional. That's written on here. So we're not going to really worry too much about rounding those edges off right now. So the only thing we really care about is the length, which is 22 inches long right here, and the width, which is 2 inches long, this one right here. So that's what we need to do. We just need to mark out a piece that is 22 by 2. All right. Okay, and if you have the big square, we have a pretty good edge. I think this is my good edge. This is my good corner here, or my better corner. So we could go in and use this to mark it up for our 22. 22 would be right here. See, this could be confusing. So my 1 starts on this side. So the 22 inches I care about is here. Ignore the 26 that's written right there. So this is 22 inches. We can verify that. Never hurts to double check. So we can bring our tape measure out and get 22. Again, if you don't have the big square, that's fine for this piece especially. Just get another mark at 22 here. And then any sort of straight edge that you have, you can bring it across the whole thing. Line it up on those lines, and just go straight across. And this piece, pretty big margin of error. If it's a little bit too long, it's not really going to hurt you much. If it's a little bit too short, it's not going to hurt you too much. I would try to make sure it's at least the right length, though. It's better if it's a little bit long, I think. But we got a lot of margin for error here. So this looks good. This is my 22. Now I need to measure 2 inches off the other side. And there is another trick. If you have one of these squares, these builder squares or speed squares, one of the things that you can do is you can actually, if you're off the edge of the table, so you're riding on the piece that you're working on, and if you have a nice straight edge on your piece, which I don't know which edge is better. I'll say the cut edge is a little bit better. What you can do is you can actually take your marker, and there are these ridges here. Maybe it works a little bit better with a pencil, but marker's going to be fine. You put the marker right into that ridge, and then you just slide the whole thing, just making sure it stays in. You slide the whole thing along the piece, and that is 2 inches. So we can double check that, because it never hurts. And that's pretty much right at 2. And it's still pretty much right at 2 on the other side. So this is our piece here. This is going to be our launching plastic rail, or KB 24010. And these are just scrap. So this is the piece I care about when I go to cut it. Now again, we've cut this plastic before by doing the scores and breaking it. You can do it this way as well for this piece. But this is now small enough that I think I can cut this on our vertical bandsaw. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, I've got my piece. We're over at the vertical bandsaw. Let me just adjust my guard here so we're kind of in a good spot. Okay, and I'm going to make the short cut first, and then I'll make the long cut afterwards. All right, that one looks fine. Let's cut this one down the long side here. Okay, I think that'll do. Let's take it back over to the other table. We'll file the edges, clean it up a bit, and then start assembly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and peel the rest of this plastic off of here. That one went better than the big sheet. All right, and let's go ahead and clean these edges up. Again, if you have just a file, go ahead, that will work. You can still file it. Sometimes you want a little bit of a coarser file for the plastic than you do for the metal that we've been working on. But I like the deburring tool because I can kind of just run that all the way along and break some stuff off. It's pretty good. This edge, oh, we got a big lip on this edge. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Okay, and the short edge, actually, I think I'll do the file. Okay, another thing we can do while we're here working on it is the corners are probably a little sharp, so kind of round them over a little bit. We're not worried about hitting the exact radius that was shown in the drawing, but as long as they're not pointy, as long as they're not sharp, we're happy. And same thing for our other two corners. Okay, looks good. Now we're going to connect these two pieces together. So we have our launching rail and the launching rail plastic. And what I would say is look at your plastic, find whatever side looks maybe flatter. And all we're going to do is line it up so that the end is flush and it goes off the other end. Now, can we do this wrong? Yes. If it were attached here, it would not work, okay? So I guess the way to do this is if you are facing it, then what you want to do is take the plastic and put it on your left-hand side. So as you're looking at it, okay? And that means if it's on top of you, the extra plastic should be sticking out to the right, and all the extra should be on the end far away from you. So we need this extra bit up here to be able to kind of bend out of the way. So when we launch the rings, the notes, it won't interfere with it, but also that might help guide it in when we're human loading, when we're trying to feed one into the robot. So if this was on the wrong side, we'd have to flip it over and our flappy part would be on the wrong side. That said, if you get this wrong, there's a really good chance you can just rotate your pieces and try again. All right, so I'm going to use kind of the table to line it up. This one doesn't have to be super precise. Again, if you have another better piece of metal, you can use that as your alignment instead. And we're just going to go ahead and clamp the ends. Well, not quite the ends because we're going to drill at the ends. So I'm going to go somewhere in a little bit from the end. Let's go ahead and throw a clamp on. Make sure it stays lined up on the bottom. Make sure everything is nice and flat. That seems pretty good. Let's one clamp on there. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. Okay, and you can kind of, again, feel with your finger, see if it's sticking down too low. It might be actually sticking a little bit too low on this side for me, so I'm going to loosen it up and adjust it just a tiny bit. I think we want to make sure that it is not sticking below the metal piece. The metal is what is going to attach to the rest of the robot, so if the plastic is too low and the plastic hits first, we might have to come back and clean it up or get it out of the way. If it's just a little bit below, it probably will work anyway. Okay, we're good there. Now the question is, where do we want to put our holes? And we're going to end up having one hole on each side, but we're going to go ahead and measure and mark those holes so we can be as accurate as possible, even though it doesn't really need to be that precise. Okay, so let's kind of tip this up so we can see it. We're going to do a 1/2 inch in from both sides and a 1/2 inch up. So I'm going to use the calipers. You can use a ruler as well. Again, it doesn't need to be Doesn't need to be perfect. But I'll go ahead and I guess let's color it in so we can see it really well. We know our hole is going to be somewhere in this neighborhood. Okay, so if I do a 1/2 inch scribe from the edge here and a 1/2 inch scribe this way, that's where that hole is going to go. Then on this side, it's a little harder to do the measurement. If we wanted this to be very precise, we would probably flip it over and drill the other side where we can do the calipers all the way. But I can definitely do the 1/2 inch from the bottom here. I can scribe that line in. And then this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one point of the calipers on the line, and I'm just going to eyeball it so it looks like it's right at the edge of my piece of metal underneath. And if you're off by a little bit, it's not a big deal. But then what I can do is rotate it around that point, and I'll still get a little cross there where I'm going to snap punch, and then that is where we will drill. So let me get a snap punch right there. Looks good. Snap punch the other side as well. That'll do. All right, and we're ready to drill, and I'm going to rivet this one, but again, if you're using bolts, you know the adjustments you have to make. So I've got my 3/16 drill bit here, and let's go for it. I guess since I'm riveting, I'm only drilling through one wall here. So I can kind of support it on the table because I'm not going all the way through, so I shouldn't drill into the table. Okay, first one, let's clean the hole. So it's nice and flat, and then let's rivet that. And now we'll spin it around. We'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, and I think it finally happened. I was talking earlier when we were attaching plastic on that if you don't clamp it down or clamp it closely enough, you can end up with material in here. So there is a gap. I can run my fingernail inside between the plastic and the metal, and that's because a lot of the shavings when I was drilling ended up between the two pieces. So to fix that, I'm going to take the clamp off, move this away. We'll kind of wipe off the pieces that are there, and you might need to even go in with a file and get that flattened out. So I'll kind of file the plastic, file the metal a little bit. If it's really bad, you might need to go in with a deburring tool. Mine wasn't too bad. So now I'll deburr the hole. And it's okay that I took the clamp off and that things can move because the holes are already drilled. So when the holes line up, we're back where we want to be. And let's go ahead and rivet that in place. All right, that looks good. Our launching rail is complete. Next step, I'm going to make some space and we're going to bring back our upper structure so we can attach the launching rail to it. All right, we have our structure back. We are going to take our launching rail here, and it's basically going to sit like in this area. We want the gap in here to be a specific amount. And we also want this to kind of be parallel. So we spent a lot of time making sure that the two diagonal beams were parallel on the two sides of our frame here. So since these two are parallel, if this is parallel to this one, it should also be pretty close to parallel to this one. And that's what we want. Because if this is tipped in or tipped out, then the tension is going to change. The amount that we're crushing the ring. Let's take a look at one. All right, so this will sit in here like this. And we want to basically be crushing down on that, on these wheels, the same amount. If this is on an angle like this, it's going to get tighter and tighter as it goes in. That's not really what we want. So we just want to get this in the right spot and make it nice and parallel to everything. So there are a couple of ways we can do that. One way is, of course, we can just sort of get our calipers in here. We can measure this gap until it's close to what we want, and then try to clamp it in. So I could measure in here, adjust it till it was right, clamp it, adjust the top and clamp it. And that's gonna work fine, but this is why I wanted you to grab those little bumper brackets, because these are the right thickness. These will fit in here, and if this is all squeezed together, that is gonna give us a 0.625 gap. So I'm at 0.63. That's gonna be good enough. And by using these brackets, we're gonna be more parallel than we would be if we tried to line it up by hand. Now, our other problem is this doesn't go at the very bottom here. We want these to be lined up at the top. So this bar and this bar, the tops of them should be lined up. All right, so basically that's what we have to do now. We're gonna try to get everything in place and get it clamped up. And this is where I really wish I had, you know, a few more hands, but we'll do the best we can. And you can use a square or something at the top just to try to make sure you're nice and even there. Okay, and let's see. If I start just squeezing it down here on the bottom, I think I can get one of these bigger clamps on there. Okay, that seems good. And then we can adjust the top one over as well. So that one's nice and good. And see how high we can get this clamp. Okay, let's tighten the bottom one up just a little bit. All right, so those are both pretty good fits. Again, always good to double check. So I'm gonna go ahead and double check my measurements here. Again, a little over 6.63 up at the top, a little over 0.63. So that's pretty good. We should be pretty parallel there. And I think we're happy with that. Now, we gotta mark the holes that we're gonna drill. They're gonna go in the center of our launching rail here. And center means 0.5. So let's set the calipers to 0.5. And they're gonna be about 1.5 inches in from either side. So we're gonna be somewhere in this neighborhood, right around here. Somewhere in here is where we're gonna end up with that hole. And then on the bottom, so somewhere around here. Okay, so let's go back now with our 0.5. And I'm gonna scribe the top mark. Like that. Scribe the bottom mark. Like that. Then let's switch the calipers over to 1.5, which is the distance we want to be from the top and down from the top and up from the bottom. So 1.5, I'll scribe across, we get a mark. Down here, scribe across, and we get a mark. Perfect, we know where our two holes are going. Let's go ahead and line it up and snap punch it. That one walked a little bit on me, but I think we're pretty close to back. Okay, and this hole, it's just holding this on. So realistically, if I drill the hole anywhere, as long as the bolts go through, it's gonna work. All right, switch it up. Get your number 7 drill bit if you want the extra clearance here for our number 10 bolts. And we'll go ahead and drill. Again, I'm gonna try to drill as straight as I can, but I'm not as worried about this one because kind of no matter where it ends up, like I said, it's gonna work. So let's grab down here our first hole. Okay, and just because I'm going to try to drill straight, I will try to align this before I move on to the next step. That looks reasonable. All right. Let's deburr. This time we have to clean the top of the hole here, but also the back side where it comes through the plastic. So I'll do the same thing on the back. All right, that's looking good. We can now drop a bolt through. There we go. And then we'll tighten that in. Now this one especially, anytime you're tightening bolts on a piece of box like this, the box is not really that strong locally. So if I tighten this and I tighten this too much, it will crush the box. So I'll be able to tighten this down and it'll just keep going and the box will get smaller and smaller and smaller. Before, it wasn't as big of a problem because if you have plates in between, like we did when we were doing the motor mounts in an earlier step, those plates will sort of spread the force out and it's harder to crush the box. But on this one, you gotta be real careful. So I'm gonna basically go until it looks like it's all the way tight. And then I'm gonna do another, I don't know, somewhere around a third of a turn, maybe half a turn, maybe a quarter turn. That's good. Third of a turn, feels good. All right, and the plastic on the bottom will help a little bit, but the top we could crush in very easily. All right, so that bolt is in. Let's drill the top hole and bolt that in. I wish I were a little bit taller. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna just try to straighten out a little bit and let's finish it. There we go. All right, now, let me unclamp these. I probably wanted that top clamp a little bit closer because I did get some plastic in between here. But luckily, since it's just bolted, I can rotate this out of the way. We can deburr the plastic on the top and on the bottom. There it goes. Then we can push this back in place. And I'll deburr the top of the aluminum here. And this should now drop all the way through. But I might have to wiggle it because since I move stuff, right, I gotta reline everything up. There it is. All right, and same thing as before. We'll just go ahead and tighten this down. Remembering that I don't want to over tighten it. But we definitely still want it tight. So you'll know it's tight if you can turn the Allen wrench and the nut on the other side is spinning. That's not tight enough. You got to do a little bit more. Now I can't really, well, a little bit more. Okay, now I can't really turn the top too much. I can also see the plastic is denting in, so I'm gonna stop right there. I think we're good. Okay. That is it. We've got our launching rail now assembled. We are set for this video. We're gonna come back and get the motors attached in the next video. But you already know, before we go, we've gotta say a special thanks to First and Argosy Foundation for making this all possible.